Why do 99% of clinics out there fail? They hit some sort of ceiling, and yet at the same time there is these top 1% of clinics that thrive regardless of the environment, regardless of patient numbers, and regardless of what is happening to the external environment. Well, I have something to show you guys because I think I cracked it. It's not luck, it's not even skill, it's how they think. I know that because I had to rewire myself to go from 0 to 7 figures, to build a big team, to remove myself from the business, and the thing still works really, really well. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how these top 1% of clinic owners actually rewire their mindset, the things that requires for you to do that if you choose to, and how to hit something that at the end of the video we'll talk about, which is called self-actualization, which will lead to freedom, which will lead to helping more people, having a bigger impact, whilst making more money, whilst having fun, and whilst designing the life that you want to live on your terms. Here's the first thing. The top 1%, they don't think like operators. They don't think like mechanics. They think like creators. And this video, it might help if you're actually making notes, because if you cannot focus for the next 10-15 minutes, I'm sorry to say it, but you're very unlikely to be successful. So with that said, creators think in systems. How do I make things work without me? Mechanics, those people who are operators, they think in how can I do more work? How can I increase my workload? And that is there's just a ceiling to that. There is no way you can carry on expanding and scaling and helping more people. And that's why I don't want you to think like this person where they say, how can I see more new patients this week? Because that's how 99% of clinic owners think out there. What we want to think of, if you want to be top 1%, is how do I build systems that deliver results regardless if I'm in the clinic or not. And that's why I need you to ask the same. So think about Jeff Bezos. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon first, he wasn't thinking, how do I sell more books? He asked himself, how do I build systems that can sell anything at any time to anyone? So I need you to start thinking, regardless if you do that or not, but how do I allow the processes and procedures in my practice to one day be able to replace myself? How do I stop micromanaging every single thing? If I was to think of this as a timeline, and here at the beginning we have someone who is a technician, okay? The technician here. And in here, on the other end of the spectrum, we have someone who is a complete visionary, you have to excuse that. And in the middle, we have your typical manager. Okay, managers are pretty good at getting stuff done, they're pretty good at delegating, they're pretty good at like operational stuff. Where do you currently lie on this spectrum? Because I'll tell you what, when you start to think about really becoming the top 1%, you cannot think like the technician, which is why I believe a lot of chiropractors find it challenging to go from an associate who worked for somewhere and they're like, okay, this was my job, this is how to adjust patients, this is how to do day one, this is how to deliver an adjustment, to now having to think like a visionary and think outside the box and not just think about yourself in your diary. They struggle. And that's why in the Practice Peak Mastermind, a lot of the things that I do is having to rewire how people actually think. And that is one of the biggest challenges. But that's just point number one, okay? So going back into the reason why we decided to make this video was to help you think like a top 1%, to help you identify these patterns. And what I found was the second point, and I still struggle with that, is the top 1%, they don't see problems as emotional, they see problems as just data. So it's this concept of data versus drama. I can focus on the drama. Oh, this chiropractor said this associate is not performing well, they are selfish, I'm selfish. Actually, why don't we just understand your business for what it is in terms of your data, in terms of your numbers? Ask yourself, if Federer is losing a match, Roger Federer, great tennis player, Would he be smashing his tennis racket against the floor and saying, I'm not good enough, this is not for me? Or would he strategically analyze and assess what went wrong? How can he adapt this for his next match? And what did he learn from the process? If you were to treat yourself, your business and your team like an amazing sports team, your job is to be the coach. If I have associates, if I have CAs, if I have managers, my job is to facilitate their success as a coach and make decisions all the time. What's best for my team? How can I support them? What else do they need from me in order to deliver the service for our clients? This is the kind of thinking that it takes when you are the top 1%, not in the country, in the world, as a clinic owner. And that's what it takes, guys. So instead of thinking emotion, because emotion is very reactive, you've got to think about data as a solution. Look at your KPIs. In my mastermind, one of the programs we've built is a collection of systems, spreadsheets and tools to help you analyze exactly what you need to be fixing in your business at one point. And why that's important? But that's important because we rely on data-driven decisions to actually build a successful practice, not just to rely on wishy-washy. I think I'm not performing because of this or that. No, the data doesn't lie. That's one of the first things my students look at when they join the program is how are my KPIs? Where's my leaky bucket syndrome? What do I need to fix? The third point, the third concept of how these top performers think is James Clear. If you haven't read his book, it's an amazing book. He talks about this identity-based habits. The top 1% of clinic owners, they are not just about chasing results. They understand who they become as they put in the reps. They learn how to enjoy the process because it's difficult. Running a business is difficult. Running a very successful business is even more difficult. That's why 99% of people cannot do it. But you guys are different. Watching this video, listening to this channel, it's extremely important to understand how your mental models or the way you think reflects your business, because your business reflects of how much you can help patients. If you want more referrals, are you building daily habits to achieve that result? I always think like amateurs, if you're an amateur versus P for pro, amateurs always like wait for inspiration and motivation. Inspiration, motivation. And I think these are weak. Not the people, that's why they're amateurs, but just the way they think. If you're a pro, you want to rely on rituals. You want to rely on discipline. You want to rely on systems. You want to rely on things that it doesn't matter if I wake up and I feel like doing it or not, it gets done, whatever that thing is. And if you guys understand, that's why we have systems. That's why we have meetings. You know, that's why we obsess over role play and analysis of how we do. Because it's not just about the results, it's about becoming disciplined enough to take the identity of someone who is a top 1%er. So, what are your daily check-ins? Do you assess your performance? Do you have, one of the tools I give people for free is this really comprehensive habit tracker that will allow you to measure your performance from, did I drink enough water today? Did I go to the gym? Did I, meditate? People can change that spreadsheet, but I will probably link it somewhere in the comments below. Or if you want to actually see exactly what that tool looks like, maybe go and watch another video. Because I promise you, if you understand how to master yourself, which we're going to talk about in a minute, this concept of self-actualization, you would watch your clinic absolutely change and flourish. So you cannot just talk about, in business, a lot of business coaches, a lot of them talk about this. They talk about, I call it PG versus PG. Personal growth versus professional growth. This professional growth is actually quite easy. I just teach you the systems, the procedures, the process, how to get new patients, how to convert them, how to keep people, how to get results. But this personal growth, I would argue it's equally as important, if not sometimes more important than your professional growth. And I want you to get very real. Like, how much personal development do you do? When was the last time you read a book on psychology and how the brain works? NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Doing hard things to really build resistance to your mindset. This is super, super important. One of the things we talk about when we talk about reps and creating discipline is we just launched a whole new program on table talk mastery. So we know as chiropractors how important it is to be able to educate our patients, to have short, purpose-driven pieces of content that we deliver to our clients. But how do you make sure that actually happens? Some of you who have practiced for 5, 10, 15, 20 years will probably be doing it naturally. How do you teach that to a new associate? Or how do you teach that to massage therapists and your chiropractic assistants and your whole team to do consistently? Well, we have systems and tools that do that for you. So it helps you absolutely streamline your business so you don't have to stress about the things that really don't matter. You don't have to stress about fighting fire all the time because you understand how to think like a top performer and therefore act like one, because your behavior is based on your decision making, and your decision making is based on the way you think and process information, which is why in this YouTube channel sometimes I will give you the tactics of exactly what to do step by step, but more importantly sometimes I would like to give you the mental model of how to come up with that decision yourself. In my mastermind, that is half of my work, is just building leaders. So one of the things that these top 1% of guys do is they think long term. They don't just think short term. When you're in the 99% of people that worry about tomorrow and new patients for this month, you completely forget this long term, what we call it the North Star. And your North Star is a collection of goals, motives, and I'll say purposely designed things that you're looking to achieve in life. And the business that you run is just one of those vehicles to get you there. So it's really important to have your clarity of what your goals are, that I call it the North Star. And I have a bunch of exercises that helps people do that. And that's just one point. None of these points singularly will change your life. But collectively, you would not be able to recognize how your practice runs, operates, and the success you have with it and your patients if you start to think long term rather than just think urgently. Short-term thinking is like, hey, we need more new patients. Long-term is, what systems will I create to bring me patients consistently? There's very different intensity in the two concepts of how you think, which leads me to my final point of this video. So for those of you who have watched it, well done. You've almost made it. But this last point is probably the biggest game changer. And that is what I call your self-actualization. Big concept. Huge concept, and there's a little pyramid that I would like you to follow, and this comes from, I didn't come up with this concept is being developed by many amazing people in the field of human behavior, human psychology, motivation, performance, business, and so on, but it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If on the bottom here, this is your, I spoke to one of my chiropractors the other day, and they've never heard of it, so we spent a whole hour just going through this, but survival down here is basically, do I have enough food? Can I eat? Can I provide for my family? After that, you get to the point where, you know what, I make some money now, I know how to adjust the patient, it's taken me 4 or 5 years to learn and become an associate and so on. Then it's like, do I get enough steady income? Can I stop thinking about money so much? If you're a clinic owner, do I have a loyal team? Because then you cannot get from level 1, which is survival, to level 2, which is security. Don't know if you guys can see on this. Because you cannot get to level 3, which is success. Most people think they're successful if they can cover the bills, but it really depends on the context. Successful compared to who, compared to what, and what's important to you. So if I'm like defining success, for me that means how well known is my clinic? Can it survive without me? Do my guys like me? Am I looking after them? Do I have a loyal team? All these things are super important, because to get to the top here, you absolutely have to put in the work and the effort. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 4 is more about significance. So this is significance. And significance is where I'm have entered the last couple of years. And significance is like mentoring. These are a pair of glasses, by the way, as a mentor. Mentoring others. Mentoring and helping your team. coaching them to the point where you know that you can bring the best out of them. That's really, really important, because that's where it's not just growing me, that's me growing the team and me giving back. And that's really, I promise you, this is a really, really joyful part of my life. And I think in a lot of coaches out there that have gone through the same phase, because I've learned the skills how to build a business. Now I can teach other clinics how to do that. And in practice speak, it's just one of the most meaningful things I've done for a long, long, long time. And I thought that helping patients was the best thing in the world. Now I help clinics to help more patients. I cannot even describe to you the feeling that brings us, because the top of this pyramid, the top of this, think of it as like a mountain of your self-evolution, is what we call self-actualization. And self-actualization is you operate from a place of purpose, not a place of pressure. Financial independency, financial freedom, freedom of location, freedom of choice. I think these are things where most of us strive to get to. This is what we call a win. And the point of this is to create a game where you don't have to stop playing. You enjoy the process to each one of those levels. And that's really, really, really important. Because guys, all of these points that we've talked about today essentially unlock what I call mindset mastery. And I'm building a whole program on this to release to my private group of clients in the mastermind, because I actually think if you really want to be the top 1%, you've got to think like the top 1%. You've got to install these elite habits. And you have to remember that your clinic will only grow when you do. Your clinic will only grow when you do. And I want you to remember that, because we have videos, you can go back and watch them, on exactly how to set up a campaign to get you 100 new patients a month. Exactly what it looks like. I break down the whole process in my YouTube channel, how we saw 25,000 plus visits in 1 year. And we're going to see more this year. But if you really want to take your practice and your life to the next level, my mastermind is not something that you would see anywhere else in the world. And I don't say that lightly, because I know the work it's taken me to get here. It wasn't 6 months of building a program. It wasn't 12 months of building the network of like-minded individuals who support each other. They're all winners, by the way. It was a lifetime worth of stacking habits, traits, and beliefs and mindset things that I have built to get to the place I am, so now I can teach others. So if you want to find out how we help you and how you can become part of this incredible group of individuals that I'm so lucky to have and call my colleagues and mentees, then let's have a talk. And then I'll be able to find out what the problems and challenges for your personal and professional business stuff is, how we can help. And if I think you're a good fit, we'll give you access to the program, and then you can win too. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with people that also might find it helpful.